Bwong. Holy crap. The council decided once again that Meetra should be banished, and this time, since she still had her Force connection, they'd strip her of her powers themselves. Fortunately for Meetra, and unfortunately for the assembled council bums, Kreia chose this moment to reveal herself as Darth Treya.
As imaginative a name change as Alex Darth Malik.
Kreia, or Treya as she was once again calling herself, used this opportunity to show the council members just what sort of gnats she thought they were, telling them that, quote, "As you would pass judgment on her, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Let me show you, you who have always seen the galaxy through the eyes of the Force, see it through the eyes of the Exile." And she ripped the Force out of them, allowing them to feel the pain and anguish that Meetra had felt at Malachor V before being exiled for the first time. At least they felt this anguish for a few moments, that is, as death followed very, very quickly. Unable to stop her, only able to watch, still in a Force lock, Meetra witnessed everything, and, once free, pursued Treya, following her trail to Telos, where she hoped to speak with Atris to learn where Treya had gone from there. Instead, Meetra engaged in a battle with Atris, who had become corrupted by a number of Sith holocrons that she'd acquired and studied, falling to the dark side in the process. Meetra and Atris fought, with Meetra standing victorious, but, uncharacteristic of such matchups, Atris was not slain. Instead, she yielded, and Meetra convinced her of the error of her ways. Atris would then reveal that Treya had fled to Malachor V, and there awaited Meetra for a final confrontation. After Meetra left, Atris went into self-imposed exile, and searched for the understanding she obviously lacked. Meetra's plan to leave the planet, however, hit something of a snag, as Darth Nihilus and a fleet of Sith ships arrived, not only to block Meetra's escape, but to feed on the planet, which was sort of Nihilus's whole shebang. With the aid of Nihilus's apprentice and the previously allied Mandalore the Preserver, Meetra slew Darth Nihilus, and proceeded to Malachor V to face off with Treya. But not before one last, not-so-minor hurdle. Not only did the gravitic hellhole that remained of Malachor V, plus a few other complications, cause Meetra's ship to crash land on what could, by then, only loosely be called a planet, Meetra had to cut a path through Sith assassins, Sith warriors, soldiers, and the remnants of local nasties, all leading to the immortal Darth Sion. They fought once again, with Meetra Surik all but dropping Darth Sion again, and again, and again, for the second bout in their career. The difference was that this time, as the battering of an angry immortal Sith Lord's body became more and more obviously fruitless, Meetra successfully convinced Darth Sion to give up the ghost. See, he was fueled almost entirely by anger, and over time and by degrees, she convinced him to give that anger up. So that when he did, when he could finally breathe out from under all of that rage that so many Sith use as their bread and butter, he simply ceased to live. Which left our intrepid exile with just one final foe to handle. Darth Treya, the original head of the Sith Triumvirate, the last one still standing, and the only one that Meetra had not as yet personally put an end to. When Meetra confronted Darth Treya for the final time, it was with empathy, trying to redeem the woman who had ultimately helped her regain her connection with the Force, and as such enabled everything that had happened since Meetra's return to Republic space. Treya, however, was determined to remain as she was, bitter, angry, and frankly at least a little bit mad.
And by mad, I mean crazy.
So the two did battle. Meetra proved victorious, severing Treya's last remaining hand in the duel.
As the old Jedi turned Sith had not gone all Skywalker and acquired a synthetic replacement.
She then demanded that Treya stand down so they could talk. Darth Treya refused, however, determined to assure that this confrontation be a final one. And, in arguably one of the coolest saber combat moves ever, telekinetically animated 3 different lightsabers to engage Meetra in combat. All without hands. Sadly for the Sith Lord, it would all be for naught. Meetra defeated her a second time, this time landing a fatal blow. In her final moments, Treya revealed to Meetra the information she would later need to follow Revan into unknown space. Meetra then left Malachor V, ordering a reactivation of the mass shadow generator a final time, annihilating the remnants of the planet, and putting an end to any and all future mayhem that the planet could be used to cause. With Treya/Kreia's death and the final destruction of Malachor V, one would think that Meetra Surik was due for a breather. In fact, it is at this point, plus a bit of epilogue, that Knights of the Old Republic 2 ends, but that is not where Meetra Surik's story ends. After putting an end to the Sith Triumvirate, Meetra returned to Dantooine to finish reacclimating herself to her rediscovered Jedi powers. Sometime later, T3M4, who was Revan's droid before coming into Meetra's custody, I remind you, revealed that it had information on where Revan had disappeared to, and that it had had this information tucked away the entire time that it had been running around the galaxy with Meetra. But, like a true troll, when Meetra asked for more information, the droid was all like, nah, and stubbornly refused to spill the beans on Revan to anyone but Bastila Shan, Revan's wife. So, curious, because why wouldn't she be, Meetra took the little astro droid to Bastila, and there the two women listened and watched while T3M4 revealed what it knew. The information would ultimately lead Meetra to fly off into mostly unknown space in search of Revan, going with Bastila's prayers as well as Revan's mask, which she had kept when her husband left to go gallivanting off into dark space. It should be noted that this would be the last time that Meetra Surik would be seen in Republic space, but her influence on the Republic and the galaxy itself would not stop here. With the Jedi Order in tatters, it was the Force Sensitives and young Jedi that Meetra began training before her departure to find Revan that would ultimately rebuild the Jedi Order into what could be seen later, in games such as SWTOR, books, comics, as well as the primary movies. So, leaving the Republic and the Jedi Order in the ultimately capable hands of her students, Meetra ventured off to find and save Revan. Her search eventually led her to the Sith Imperial capital of Dromund Kaas, where she was able to land and blend in with relative ease. As the citizenry of Dromund Kaas was no more expecting an enemy Jedi to land there than the people of Coruscant would have expected an enemy Sith to do the same, neither galactic government having interacted with the other in nearly 1,000 years. After much searching, sleuthing, and bribery, Meetra managed to arrange a meeting with an aspiring Sith Lord going by the name of Scourge. After the initial meeting broke out into a fight, resulting in the deaths of Scourge's guards in Meetra's hands,
an awkward icebreaker if ever there was one,
the two came to the conclusion that it would be in their best interest to work together to free Revan, who, as it so happened, was being held captive by Scourge's master, a member of the Sith Emperor's Dark Council. The reason for their cooperation? The Sith Emperor was planning to make war with the Republic, an event that, for various reasons, both Meetra Surik and Lord Scourge wanted to avoid. And one of the best ways to avoid the war? Spring the most powerful Jedi either Meetra or Scourge knew out of jail, and help him put an end to the Sith Emperor once and for all. The two staged a rescue of Revan, and, once freed, Meetra restored Revan's mask to him, a reminder that helped him piece back the final pieces of his broken psyche, preparing he and his team for their confrontation with the Emperor. Once they were prepared, the three allies of convenience, an exiled Jedi, a tight-breaking Sith, and a man who was a bit of both, made their assault on the Emperor. Unable to sneak directly into the throne room unmolested, Lord Scourge and Meetra Surik elected to hold off the Emperor's support forces, while Revan went on ahead to do battle with the Emperor in single combat. Surik and Scourge dispatched the Emperor's guard, then charged into the throne room only to see that the battle had not been going as they had hoped. Revan was on his last legs. The Emperor, in fact, was about to kill Revan with his own lightsaber. Thinking quickly, Meetra realized she had two options. She could throw her own saber and kill the Emperor, but would likely be unable to do so quickly enough to save Revan, and may even wound or kill him herself in the process. Or, she could throw her saber to deflect the Emperor's weapon, saving Revan but not harming the evil tyrant. She opted for the latter, giving Revan a chance to continue the fight with Meetra and Scourge's newly arrived aid. However, Lord Scourge, seeing that the Emperor had already proven to be more than a match for Revan, and knowing that even with her combined strength, he and Meetra would not be enough to turn the tide, especially with Revan as wounded as he already was, chose not to commit to the battle. Instead, he did the only thing he could think of in order to preserve his own life. In a bid to convince the Emperor that he had simply been working to expose and weaken his Emperor's enemies, Scourge stabbed Meetra in the back, killing her instantly, and was able to ultimately convince the Emperor that he was and always had been an ally and loyal servant. Thus ended the life of Meetra Surik. But there's still just a bit more left to her tale. Though she died then, Meetra would carry on as a Force ghost for another few centuries. After she and Revan's defeat, the Emperor put Revan into a sort of suspended animation and linked himself with Revan's mind, allowing him to perceive and influence the Jedi Order through Revan's connection with both the dark and light sides of the Force. What the Emperor didn't realize was that the connection worked both ways, and so, while the Emperor used Revan to see, study, and manipulate his enemies, Revan manipulated the Emperor, such that the war the Sith Lord wished to start fairly immediately turned out to be a war that the Emperor chose to delay for roughly another 300 years. A feat of iron will and determination that would have been impossible even for the great Revan, were it not for Meetra Surik, silently staying by his side as a Force ghost, even in death, granting him strength and support for 300 years. Before eventually she, reaching out through the Force, contacted the Jedi of that modern day to come save Revan from his prison. The Jedi and the Republic came through, freeing Revan from stasis and the Emperor's grasp. Finally, with her oldest and best friend free from torment and imprisonment, Meetra faded from all knowledge, and hopefully became one with the Force at last. So guys, that was the story of Meetra Surik. Her story isn't quite as long as Revan's, despite what this video length may look like. Remember, Revan could be a whole video series on his own. But she's no less interesting, and she arguably had a greater impact on the history of the galaxy at large. She played an instrumental role in the Mandalorian Wars, making a name for herself as one of the major players in keeping the Republic intact. She defeated the Sith Triumvirate, a shadow sect of Sith that very nearly destroyed both the Jedi Order and the Republic itself. With the Jedi Order essentially dead, and easily left in a position to become completely extinct, it was Meetra Surik's students who would eventually rebuild the Order into what we would later recognize. Indeed, if not for her and those she trained, after being exiled by the remains of the Jedi Council, mind you, it's quite possible that Jedi that we know, such as Yoda, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, and even Anakin Skywalker, may never have had an Order to join, or older, more experienced Jedi to train them. And just imagine how different the Star Wars landscape would be then. Yet her influence doesn't stop there. She freed Revan from confinement, and though it's true that he would ultimately be captured again, she would die, and the Emperor would go on to lord over the Sith for many more centuries, the argument could be made that her decision to spare Revan instead of slay the Emperor was the right one. Later events show us that the Emperor's body is not the only thing that needs to be broken for him to die. What's more, if she had killed him, the Dark Council would have warred for supremacy afterward. And if a Sith Lord who wanted to attack the Republic had won out, the Republic would have stood no chance of withstanding a fourth war in so short a time. So, the argument could be made that Meetra saved not only the Jedi Order from annihilation, but also the Republic itself. Twice! We hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the story of the Jedi Exile, Meetra Surik, and we look forward to any comments, questions, and etc. you may have. If you liked this video, please hit the like. If you want to see more like it, please subscribe. Also, let us know what you want to see more of in the future. More of this, less of this, better, worse, etc.
And in the meantime, this has been
Two Men and a Mic,
signing off.
Hey guys, you can click the link in the left for our last lore video.
You can click the link on the right for our last Let's Play.
And right here in the middle, that orb, you can hit that to subscribe.
Also, ring the bell if you want to be notified when we post a new video.
This is Two Men and a Mic. Thanks for watching.